Hello, people. Welcome back to Brick City. This is the Real Charlemagne, your host for today. While I got your attention, please like, subscribe, and comment, please. I enjoy your feedback. I want to hear from you guys. And also, it gives the guests the opportunity to interact with you as well. Um, Today, we have a lady from the Greenville community, does a lot in the community. And she likes staying in the background doing things. But we have Sybil Kearse. How you doing out there, Sybil?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Charlemagne?
I'm good. Can't complain. Can't complain. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Sybil.
Well, as you said, I like to stay in the background, so this will probably be short and sweet. But like you said, my name is Sybil Kearse, and I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, but I relocated to North Carolina in the Greenville area, like you mentioned, in 2003. So I guess that kind of makes me officially a Carolinian. I don't know. Does it?
Uh, yeah, I think so.
All right. But I love it down here. I moved down here and I moved my family down here. And it's been a wonderful experience from me seeing the difference between the city life and living down here. So I'm just glad to be here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Um, and I'm sure the community enjoys having you here because you brought a wealth of look knowledge, enthusiasm, and other things to your church family, the community offering different types of services. So with that note, what type of services do you offer? What type of businesses do you have?
Well, initially, my first baby was called Boss Lady 101 LLC, and that is a coaching and consulting agency for women. And essentially, how that came about is because I believe that women can always use help with prioritizing their self care and just keeping life from lifing, if you know what I mean. We're big on mental health. We're big on trying to help people get their breakthrough. And so it's a very successful program, and I enjoy doing what I do. And as time progressed and I helped clients in that field, I noticed that there was another area that people needed some assistance, and that's in the financial area. And what ends up happening is people are often stressed out with life, but a big chunk of that sometimes comes from finances, like financial problems. And so I learned through my own trial and errors, through my own mistakes, that there is a better way to manage finances. And so that's what prompted me to become a licensed financial professional. And I truly enjoy what I do. And there sparked SKM Financial. And basically, we provide services for every season of life. And it's an exciting thing to do because you get to see people go from where they are to where they want to be, and just being a catalyst or being a part of that transition is a beautiful experience. And lastly, I dabble with web or graphic designs. And so we birthed Max Pro Graphics. And I do, website building and different types of graphic designs for businesses to help with their branding and, having an online social media presence. So basically, other than that, I work for the Lord. As you mentioned, I do fellowship at York Memorial AME Zion Church in Greenville, North Carolina. I'm an associate minister there, and I definitely love being a minister for the Lord because it's very fulfilling. And to be honest, without Him, I couldn't do none of what I mentioned.
Amen. I totally agree on that. And so like you pull all different directions. I see you're a busy person. So look, I'm not gonna hold you too long today because I know you got a lot going on. But I know you mentioned mental health for women. Why is that near and dear to you to help women and especially from a mental health capacity?
I recently endeavored to become a certified mental health coach. And mental health is something I feel is not addressed enough. People may have a misconception about, what it looks like for someone to have mental health challenges. It is not always something that people need to, rely on medications or be committed into some type of an institution. Sometimes we just deal with or don't know how to deal with past traumas and different things. And so mental health coaching for me is spiritual as well. It's I'm not licensed as a therapist, so I need to make that clear. I help people who may have already been diagnosed with things like anxiety, PTSD, an array of things where they already received their diagnosis, but now they're just needing to know how to handle it and still handle life. And the reason why that's near and dear to me is because, not just catering to women. I just feel more relatable to women. I think mental health is important to anyone. But the truth of the matter is that most women I've encountered, especially women in leadership, both in the religious community, professional community, we carry a lot of baggage. Um, and I think it's so essential that we know how to manage through those things, because sometimes carrying so much, not knowing how to process, not knowing how to manage, you find yourself being ineffective. And most women who have children, they have no choice but to keep going. And so that puts you in a bind where you're just in survival mode, and I was in survival mode personally for decades, and I didn't realize it until I was able to get my mental health where I needed it to be. So I went from surviving to thriving, and that transition for me was invigorating. And I'm like, man, if only there was some way that I could help others try to get to this place, this plateau of thriving. You find yourself just not existing, you're actually living life. And so that's what I enjoy, and that's what I like to see. And I think there's more people out there that could use the services more often than not. And sometimes they don't always have the availability of the type of coaching that they need when it comes to their mental health.
Got you. And have you found that people tend to shy away from it? Because, okay, look, and we're gonna get to the financial piece in a minute, but I know sometimes, you work in ministry and then you work in mental health. And, for many years in our community, it's almost like take everything thing to the altar, leave it at the altar. So now that you're on both sides of the spectrum, how do you try to connect those two pieces when you're doing your coaching, from a religious standpoint, without, without going away from a religion, which is needed, but also understand the science standpoint, which is the mental health piece of the wiring of internal wiring of people. How do you, balance those two between religion? Like it's almost like church and state type situation. How do you balance those two?
Well, honestly, I kind of, when I do it from a standpoint of spirituality, I believe strongly that God provided everything that we need. But I also believe that we may not always know what's available to us. And so, how I kind of connect the dots, it isn't one or the other, they blend together, kind of like, how the muscles and the skeletal system work. They have to lean on each other in order for the body to function. And so even though they're independent in their own way, they both need to actually work together for the functionality of the body. When it comes to the mental health, part of your mental health being balanced is your spiritual essence. So some people may not realize it, but a lot of what we go through affects us spiritually as well as mentally, as well as emotionally, as well as physically. So it's kind of like taking a holistic approach and letting people know, number one, you can have faith. You definitely can have faith. There's nothing saying that because of whatever your conditions may be, that faith isn't something you should have. But on the realistic side of things, when your faith can only get you but so far because of all the blockages that you may have, because of all of the things, the hindrances, the distractions, the inability to think clearly, those things impact your relationship with God, because life, like I said earlier, life be lifing. And so learning how to manage that and understand that just because you're seeking some type of coaching or counseling doesn't make you any less of a Christian, doesn't impact your faith. Definitely pray, but I look at it this way. If I was hungry and I prayed to God to feed me, there's no doubt in my mind that God would provide for my needs. That's what that's what the Bible declares. And so it's like being someone laying down in a green pasture next to an apple tree and saying, God, feed me. And the apple is on the tree. Well, God provided the apple, but He also provided the means for us to do what we need to do to get to the things He provided for us. And so that's kind of how I try to link it together. Your faith is there, God provides, but now you have some work that you got to do to maintain yourself and or uplift yourself with all the tools and all the things He provided you so that you can get to that place that you know you belong. And that seems to work well for me.
Awesome, awesome, great answer. I appreciate that insight. I'm quite sure all the listeners and viewers definitely would appreciate that insight, and it might help some individuals out here. Now, look, pushing forward, the thing that a lot of people don't like talking about outside of mental health is money, the other M. Like that's one thing a lot of people in all communities don't like to discuss. Um, and probably more often than not in our community, unless somebody owe you some money. Look, that's when it's a big topic of discussion when somebody owe you some money. But as far as understanding money and building and putting your money in the right vehicle to make it push forward, um, let's talk about that for a minute. How, first of all, to shift that mindset, what is your first initial meeting with someone to try to shift their mindset about, saving, financial planning, all these good things? How do you tell somebody, say, hey, put put down a double cheeseburger this week and save it? How do you do that?
Great question. And I believe even some of the well known million or billionaires would probably not be able to answer that in one sentence. I mean, because you're dealing with people. The thing to remember is that most people who have um, financial challenges, not because of circumstances that happen, because things can happen that are out of our control, but just because of lack of financial education, they find that they are in a situation that they don't know how to get out of. And so they get into this cycle of doing what they know to do. And that's anybody, whatever capacity that you are at, wherever you are, not just financially. As people, we're just going to do the best we can with what we have, or we're going to do less than. It takes a certain desire to want to no longer be or want more than. So I basically just tell people the truth. I give it to them in cold hard facts. Because when it comes to your family's financial future, it's not a game. This is not something to toy around with. This is not something to procrastinate on. And if we really was to take inventory of the last couple of years with everything that happened, many of us have had more RIPs than happy birthdays. Many of us had said goodbye to people unexpectedly that we thought would be here a lot longer. And the flip side of that is that person who's no longer here probably had plans the next day, right? I'll get it done tomorrow. And so my first initial conversation or icebreaker, if you will, is to let people know you are where you are, But what does better look like for you? What does better mean to you? And who does your better impact? And so when you start thinking about that, you're like, to acknowledge that there is a better, that means that there's something more that you need or want. And then I go into the conversation of breaking down where you are. We take a snapshot of where you are financially, and then I give you where you will be if you make it to retirement. And then I'm going to let you know, hey, if you continue the way you're going now, this is how much you can look, you'll have. The numbers don't lie. So most people that I interact with, when we crunch the numbers, they're already struggling with living with 100% of their income.
Mm-hmm.
So when reality sets in that when you're too old to work because you've worked decades somewhere and now you're in retirement age, you're getting that fixed income syndrome, and now you're having to live with 60% of what you bring home now. So now you got inflation to take into an account because
Mm-hmm.
years have passed before you get to retirement age, and you're bringing home less. So your bills, your family, you're feeding your family, maintaining what you have. Can you do that at 60% of your income now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now let's look at inflation. What will your purchasing power look like 15 years down the road? How much is that dollar going to buy you? So now you're not only living at a deficit of 40%, but you also can buy less with what you have. Can you survive with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are heavy questions. I'm sitting here like, hmm. Do I need to restructure some things? But yeah, but yeah, I appreciate that insight. So, we just went from mindset shifting to what do you offer them once you get past that? Okay, the initial assessment say, okay, we could put aside, yada yada. Just say $150 a month. You know what I'm saying? You could, you figure out this person has been not wasting, but it
I get
wasn't a
what you're saying.
necessity. And look, it wasn't a necessity. And said, hey, we could put you in a vehicle for $150 a month. How do you now? How do you do the assessment then and say, hey, do you base it off of age? Their health. What do you use and determine which avenue you go as far as your financial planning point stands?
Okay, so with the initial consultation, and I do those like for free, and they normally take about 15 to 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Unless a person is literally having a lot of questions, and I try my best to explain things, especially if it's a new process for someone. But initially, we have that conversation, and in the meantime, I'm also, like I said, I get a snapshot of where they are financially. They don't have to give me any documentation, just throwing me some numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I let them know, at retirement, I do my research on my end. This is what Social Security will potentially give you. This is what your job, your pensions is set up if you have anything. And then I let them know, hey, to kind of keep that 100% of income, this is how much you need to put away. So realistically, what do you think you can do now?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so people are going to look at what they're doing now and they're going to say, no, I can't. And then so what I do is I kind of broke it down into a 5-step program.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well say it's not really a program, but I work with people 5 steps. So if they're at a point where they don't see how they can put anything aside because they're already stretched to the brim,
Mm-hmm.
then we literally go through another mindset shift. We go through the wants versus needs. We're going to have a conversation about what you want and what you need. And then we're going to have a very upfront conversation about how we can minimize the wants and maintain the needs. And you will be surprised just how much more you can find when you truly make a decision that your wants is not more important than the needs of your family, the needs of what you want to do, the needs at retirement. Most people work hard now. I get it. Hard work is never anything you should shy away from. But nothing that we do at our jobs even in our businesses, if we don't have it set up right, none of that can be passed down to our kids. None of the times we worked over, none of the good reports, the employee recognitions, none of those things can be beneficial to our children as a pass down. So we have to realize that our wants is keeping our families and our children's away from what they need, essentially. So now you have a decision to make. I will help you. We'll talk about, do you really need Netflix? Okay. Do you really need to eat out 3 times a week?
Yeah, of course. But
I'm
I'm quite
telling
sure that I'm
you,
quite
bro.
sure that's the answer you get back. And I'm quite sure
And
Netflix,
you'll
because
be surprised.
they're like, well, I gotta watch something. I can't. Yeah, so yeah, I'm quite sure. Like I'm just playing devil's advocate right now because I'm quite sure those are some of the responses
Yeah,
we get
it is.
because a lot of our needs, sometimes I know we get our needs and wants mixed up because we become so codependent on certain things that in actuality in our life we like we need it, even though
Yeah,
in all actuality it's a want.
real talk. I had a conversation with a person, and they had 2 cell phones on their account.
Mhm,
Well, actually, they had 2 cell phones with 2 different companies. And they kept saying, man, the convenience of having 2 phones. I don't know how I made it without 2 phones for so long. Now they do have a business, and so they use one line for their business and one for personal. But then they got into a situation where within 2 weeks of each other, both phones broke. They
mhm,
had to, replace them. They had to go through some stuff. And when we boiled down to how much it ended up costing them, I said, do you need 2 phones or do you want? Oh, no, I need. And we went back and forth in the dialogue for a little while. But then when I broke it down in the numbers, and this is when it hits home, when we break it down to the numbers, when you realize after a whole year, this is what you did, and this could have been done if you did it this way, and you would have saved this amount of money, and if that money would have went in this kind of vehicle 5 years from now, you would have this much. So if you keep giving your that money to the cell phone company 5 years ago, you still just have another broken phone. And that's when it becomes a shift. Like, you mean to tell me if I do that with my money, this is where I end up? Yes, because a lot of people are unaware about the financial vehicles that are available.
mhm,
Because the truth be told, those conversations weren't, a lot of people weren't privy to them, depending on, many factors.
mhm.
And the truth be told, this conversation needs to be had a lot more with those who may not be aware of these products, of these services, of these financial vehicles. Because if you would have started 30 years ago, some of them would be millionaires right now.
Right, exactly. So while we're on the topic of services, can you tell? Um, I know some of us that's watching on YouTube, they can see the services on your backdrop, but the ones that's listening over the airways, can you tell your services, and then we'll come back and then we'll talk about how a little bit in depth of each one.
Okay. So at SKM Financial, we offer several services pertaining to your financial needs. We do a financial needs analysis for those looking for ways to better serve their families financially, and also looking about better opportunities for their retirement. And that financial needs analysis is completely complimentary, costs you nothing, no strings attached, takes about 15-30 minutes, but it is the foundation of what we need to find out which product is the best thing for you based off certain criteria. Um, I do offer life insurance, term and whole life, index universal life. There's a bunch of products out there that can help people not only after they're gone, but strategically make it available while you're still living. That's why I believe it's called life insurance and not death insurance. We help people with retirement planning because, like I said, most people are not putting away enough. and not taking into consideration taxes and inflation. And so we help devise a plan that will supplement that income gap when you get to retirement age. And it is so important for people because it's heartbreaking, like I said, to work somewhere for years and have to live on a fixed income after you've given all your best years to a particular employer or a working time that you had. So we help with estate planning. Definitely emergency fund planning is something people should strive to have because you just never know about the what ifs of life. And debt elimination, we help people strategize, first starting with the wants versus needs. And one thing that's not listed up there is I also help people as a tax professional, because taxes is one of the other ways that we often don't properly plan. And it can be put a big hole in the pocket if you're not using it wisely, doing what you need to do wisely so that taxes won't impact you, especially towards retirement.
Got you. Appreciate it. Look, so you answered part one and part two at the same time. So emergency funding, right, for your family. What's the rule of thumb financially you should have? I know some people say different things as far as emergency money. How much should you have on hand or access to for an emergency fund?
So, for my clients, an emergency fund isn't my tire blew or I need, another transmission in my car. Those are emergent. But emergency planning means if in the event something should happen, disability, one of the income people in your household that generates the income to pay the bills, if their income is no longer available due to a temporary reason for like I said, disability, illness, sickness, anything like that, you want at least 3 to 6 months of your monthly household bills saved up. Why? Because that gives you 3 to 6 months to figure out how to reassess and regroup without losing anything, without having no one come and repo your car or evict you because you weren't able to pay your house note or your rent. So that's a good rule of thumb, to have that. And that most likely will be kept somewhere where it's easily accessible. So that's probably going to be in a savings account, because you want to be able to have access to that. That's
Mhm.
not for long term
Right.
investment purposes.
Cool. But I just taught me something because I was thinking, yeah, I was thinking of emergency more or less being, a transmission, an auto repair, home, AC going out. But you just gave me a different aspect of how to view emergency as well, because that's a huge emergency. If the breadwinner of the family goes down,
Right.
how you going to function when they return? I went through an incident some years ago, and I was really sick, and it was like I was fortunate enough to have income coming in, but I could imagine if I didn't, you know what I'm saying, and I
Right.
have backup, I would probably be in a world of hurt. So that makes sense right there. And so estate planning, can you elaborate a little bit on that as well?
Yes. So estate planning, I have partnered with some wonderful people that help us with a lot of these products. But to give a gist of it, it's basically where you set up your estate because in the event of your demise, let's say you worked hard and you set up things to have something to leave behind for your children and so on and so forth. If things are not properly set up and you don't have time to set it up, and let's say for whatever tragedy strikes and you're no longer here, then the state can come and claim certain things that you worked hard for. And because you won't be here and certain things won't, you haven't identified someone as the beneficiary of your estate, now your children are going back and forth with in courts with the state to get what's rightfully theirs, simply because it wasn't set up the right way to begin with. So, there's different types of estate planning, things that our professionals will discuss with people, all kind of trusts and irrevocable trust, revocable trust, what that entails, what it means, what's the stipulations. But it's definitely helpful, especially for someone who has already started the process of securing their financial future. because the goal, what many of the wealthiest people in the world have done, they've used some of these products intentionally, and they used it in a way that they were able to purchase more income producing assets with some of the funds that they built that was tax free. So now not only do they have their homes, but now they have other assets that they need to secure. And they did that with the estate. So now when they pass away, what happens is no one can touch it. It stays in the family and it benefits generations to come. I think Rockefeller's what, on their sixth or seventh generation, and they utilize some of these products way back when. Of course, these products have drastically improved, but they figured out what we are now learning and catching on to, and it helped them for 6 to 7 generations. Um,
Wow.
so, if we started today, what would our future generations look like?
Right, right, right. And so, hmm, just just a devil's advocate moment of an individual who's like um about to hit 50. They're like, I'm 50. I got 12 years before they retire from their job. It's like, I don't got time to save. I don't have time to save. I'm on a short road. How do you respond to an individual like that? And do you encourage them to do something for their family versus them? It's not about you anymore. How do you address an individual like that?
Okay. So we take into account several things, but just and to answer the question initially, if you there's three options. You're either going to learn to live on less, you're going to retire later than you want, or save more wisely now. So, of those three that I just asked you, what makes more sense?
Say,
Save more wisely now.
say more wisely.
So, anyone who says they can't save, what they essentially, I tell them what you are saying, right? Because I don't know, the Lord gave me a gift to hear what's not being said, and
Hmm.
sometimes I got to regurgitate that to people. So
Hmm.
when you tell me you can't save, essentially what you're telling me is you want to live on less.
Hmm.
You tell me you can't save, you're telling me you want to work longer than 62 or 67 or whatever
Hmm.
desired retirement age you want, because it's either or,
Hmm.
right? So if you're saying that's what you want, okay, but 9 times out of 10, that person is going to tell me, no, I don't want to do that. Well, then you want to save. So what we need to do now is figure out the strategy to help you. You got to start somewhere. The only time
Hmm.
it's too late is when you don't start. And we have products that if you give it 15 years, it will benefit you.
Hmm.
Okay, so it's never too late to start. But let's say um, it is too late to start using a life insurance product.
Hmm.
Let's say you have health issues. Sometimes that is, the older we get, our bodies tend to respond differently than when we
Boy.
were in our youth. So, and it's realistic. And
Yeah.
so if that is the case, that you cannot get approved or something you can afford, well,
Hmm.
then if you have children and they're
Hmm.
healthy, then you become the policy owner. I'm spitting some game. Get a pen.
Okay.
when
Uh-oh.
when you're the policy owner, you have access to the cash value of that account just as much as the child has access to the death benefit. Okay,
Mm.
so recently wrote a policy for a client. They're new parents, starting early in their journey of parenthood and marriage, but they made a conscious decision that $200 was affordable for them to put away for their child.
Hmm.
If they were to take that same $200 and put it into something like a savings account, when the child is of retirement age, they would probably get, I think it was like $106,000, a little over. But after speaking with me, they were able to put that $200 in the right type of financial vehicle.
Hmm.
And by the time that child is 24 years old, that family will have access to over $1 million of cash value in the policy.
Wow.
This is money you could take out, $25,000, $50,000. You can buy the child's first car. You can pay for their college expense with cash, tax free. Okay.
Mm,
And you can pay the money back, but the money is still yielding interest as if the money never was taken out. If you don't take it out, if you don't pay it back, then they'll take it off of the death benefit in
mhm.
the event of the demise. But it's a strategy.
Right.
So now here I am. If I was those parents, my child is 24 years old. I've been putting aside $200 every month, but I have access to over $1 million of cold hard cash.
Wow.
What can you do with that money? Now you have a child who's starting in their life as an adult, and they are what we call debt free.
Hmm.
They don't have to pay for college with loans because you
Right.
can pay cash. You don't have to go to the car lot and take out a car note because you
Hmm.
can walk off the lot in cash. You save tons of money doing that in the long run.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, if they continue to make that payment of $200 a month until the
Hmm.
child is of retirement age, 67, that child will take home $240,000 a year. I've
Mm.
worked in some very good jobs. I didn't never make $240,000 just working. Now this is going to
Right.
be to the child, and the child has, if the child doesn't do anything but take over the payments, the
Wow.
payments won't increase unless they want to,
Hmm.
and they're set, and they still have insurance in the event of their demise.
Wow. That's awesome.
Strategy.
Strategy. Yeah.
So
So, like you said, that wasn't putting the policy in, just using for example, that wouldn't be putting the policy in my name. It was just be the policy one of my kids' name, and I was a policy holder to
yes,
to to create that type of money
yes,
over
yes.
what you just said. If you started at birth and it was $200, and you said around 24, 25, you're sitting on a million.
Over a
Not,
million.
it's not bad for 25
Yeah,
years.
yeah. And that's with that illustration is done basically with we don't ever do it at what's capacity, meaning what the interest has traditionally been for the last decade.
Mm,
We did that at like 6 point something percent interest annually, when in
mm,
actuality we've been pretty much at the index has been about 8 to 10%. So it's a
wow.
good chance, and that's the other thing. This product will allow you to place money into it, provide coverage in the event of something happening,
Hmm.
but also, even if because it's not tied to the market, you don't lose money. Even if the market is completely shut down, you
Hmm.
still will earn a very minimum interest. They have what they call a floor, and they
Hmm.
have what they call a ceiling. So you don't lose money, unlike some other types of investments, which life insurance isn't an investment. I must clearly state that. It is a strategy that with the IRS, the companies have been able to devise a plan to benefit those who have this. But if you were to put your money into stocks and mutual bonds, things of that
Hmm.
nature, you run the risk of gaining a lot,
Hmm.
but you also run the risk of losing a lot when it goes down. This
Right.
kind of gives you that comfort zone of knowing you can't lose your money.
Mm. So, okay, between those two, like you said, you look at, oh, I could invest that $200 over here in the stock market and make that in 5 years versus 25 years. You're gonna have those people, and that. But like you said, the risk, you get. I think when you break stuff down, do you have to explain the risk to them? So you have to know a little bit about both, in order
Right.
to get them to understand. Because a
So
lot of people, like you said, you don't under, when I used to look at life insurance, all I thought was life insurance to bury somebody. You know what I'm saying?
yes,
That's what typically, communities have thought of life insurance. Okay,
yes,
and then whatever we don't put in the ground or whatever we don't put in the in the vault or whatever, we had a little something left over. We give everybody.
Little something,
$500,
something.
a little
You
something,
go about
something.
your
Just
business.
yeah, look, somebody love you, and then that was it. So you know that's really has changed my life about, like you said, looking at life insurance, because I was like, dang, if I did this when I was 20 and doing this, I look real different right about now. You know what I'm saying? But to
Indeed.
have, I'm glad you here to explain to people about, the different types of life insurances and the different type of things vehicles that you could put money in to help, like you said, you and your family, and create that generational wealth, because like that 240 grand that the person's using at that age, they may not even need 240 grand to live, and then they could start investing in and putting in something else too. So it creates that generational wealth.
It definitely does. And I just, like I said, I have to be due diligence and just let people know when they're looking to invest. And like you mentioned, someone wanting to put $200 a month in the stock market, that's an investment. It does come with higher risk. But
Mhm.
that does not insure anything.
Right.
It's straight risk.
Hmm.
So this is why I prefer this area for those who are just not looking for that rush, not looking for that quick fix in their finances. They're looking for a long-term solution that will be there to carry on for generations.
Hmm.
And this is something that is definitely been proven. It stood the test of time. It is not an investment opportunity. It is insurance. It is an opportunity for cash value to grow, but it
Hmm.
is not something that you're gambling away because, like I said, you don't stand any opportunities to lose. You gain either way. It's just a matter of how much you gain. And if you strategize it properly, and you do get to the point where there's cash value available, this is the part that people miss. The death benefit helps you bury people. Yeah, I get that. But if I'm the breadwinner and my spouse is the breadwinner, we're both bringing home the bacon. Suddenly, one of our incomes is no longer there. The house note still needs to be paid. The car note still need to be paid. The credit cards still need to be paid. There's things that does not stop because I stop living or my spouse stops living. So, life insurance, as a rule of thumb, no matter what type you get, you want to at least have 2 or 3 years of your combined income of a policy, because how long will it take your spouse to recover dealing with your loss, dealing with not knowing how they're going to keep the bills going. They're going to need to take some time off from work because they got to get themselves together, never mind if you got kids. So if you had that policy, yes, you're in the ground, but now there is something there that your spouse will not have to worry about because you made sure that the family was covered in the event you can no longer bring in the income. That's a key thing to remember. It's not just putting them in the ground. It definitely is about what happens after I'm in the ground. What's going to happen to my family? The living benefits of it is while we're all still here, we're healthy, we're doing the best we can. After about 10 or 15 years, we now have a cash value. We grab some of this funds, but we need to purchase some income producing assets. It's not the time to go shopping. It's the time to strategically purchase things that's going to produce income to bring into the home. And this way, now you're having an additional source of income on top of what you already have. Plus, you still have what's going to be there after you're gone. That's the strategy. And once people wrap their mind around that tool that's available, they will no longer be satisfied with a couple of $1,000s to put someone in the ground and give out a couple $100s.
Yeah, it's and like I said, uh, I totally agree, because the you never want to bank on someone dying for financial gain. You know what I mean? So I do like the living benefits of what you're saying, and some of the things that I've been able to look into over the last couple of years. And people, the younger the better. It's just like anything, you know what I'm saying? Like your health is usually better, everything else is usually better when you're younger, and the premium look a lot better. So I definitely encourage you to reach out to SKM Financial. And can you tell them how to reach you real quick so they could reach out to you and do that? You said it was free, right? The free financial
Yes,
needs
the
analysis. Okay.
financial needs analysis. You can go to www.skmfinancial.pro, and you'll see up there where it says consultation. You can, look at a bit of what our services are and how they can benefit you. But once you schedule a consultation, our calendar will be made available. It'll be over Zoom, or if you prefer telephone, we can do a phone conference. um, you'll have a little questionnaire to answer just so that we can be better prepared. I'm all about time. I value your time. So if I get the preliminaries out the way, then we can just talk numbers when we talk. And yeah, it's completely complimentary. I just want to get the information out there, educate people as much as I can so that they're aware of what's available to them, and then they can make the best decision for them.
And while you're on that note, tell people how to follow you on your social media because like I know you posted something a couple of days ago, and that was I was like, wow. I think it was a starting as someone at 6 or 7 years old, and how it accrued the interest and everything, and how much they was able to pull out at a certain age. So tell people how to reach you on social media as well, because you'll be dropping nuggets here and there, so they could catch those nuggets. So tell them how to reach you there.
Most definitely. So SKM Financial does have a Facebook page, but most of the time I use a lot of my personal Facebook page, which is Coach Sybil Kearse. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, of course, Facebook. And usually, if you go to any of my websites, then my social media platforms will be there. You just click on it. Feel free to follow, and I definitely will follow you back because I like interacting with people and answering questions when I can. But definitely, those platforms I'm available.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, we're getting a little short on time here, but feel free to drop another nugget and or inspirational piece before we get off. I like putting my guests on the spot, and want you to give something to the people of inspiration, financially, spiritually, whatever you feel the need to, what's on your heart right now. Just give them a little nugget.
All right, a little nugget. Bef- before you can do anything to change, you must first make a decision to change. And that decision should be the platform, it should be your goal, it should be your focus. And as you continue to grow spiritually and whatever, financially, whatever capacity, remember this: you never eat the fruit the day that you plant the seed. But if you never plant the seed, you'll never eat the fruit. That's it.
Wow, that's a good one. I'm gonna steal that one. So I hope you incorporate it.
It's
But
no problem.
yeah,
Share, share,
yeah,
share.
yeah. But yeah, but like you said, once again, it's been a privilege and an honor to speak with you about something that everyone needs, but definitely, in our community, we definitely need to become more knowledgeable of things, because like you said, we wasn't of I guess it wasn't afforded opportunity. Wasn't knowledgeable of opportunities to help build a generational wealth that we're capable of building now. So I appreciate you sharing with us. Um, and to have you back again. And like I said, everyone out there, feel free to leave your comments, and everything in the comments on the iTunes and the Spotify and the YouTube pages. And I'm quite sure Sybil will definitely get back to you as soon as possible with your questions. So, but yeah, thanks again, Sybil. I really appreciate you. You've been a blessing to the audience today. and a blessing to me because I learned something that I didn't know. But yeah, but thanks again. And then people don't feel free to follow me on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. Hey, looking forward to this season and continue to connect with you guys in the community. And also, if you're looking to be on the show, feel free to go to my website, which is www.brickcityshow.com. Fill out the questionnaire. I'll reach out to you and look, 3 to 5 business days. I'm gonna give you the banking response. But 3 to 5 business days, and then I'll get up with you so we can see if we could schedule get you on the show. Also, individuals looking to advertise. We're gonna kick our advertising campaign off next month. So which would be October. So go ahead and send me your emails and everything through the website, and I'll get back with you as well. Come up with advertising packages. So like I said, thanks again, Sybil. And look, until next time, you guys have a good evening. Peace.
Thank you. Bye bye.